I'm very much thinking about using this as my reference. It's not very tonalist at this point, so I'm gonna have to probably knock down some of these bright blues, or think about it. And it probably will need some design help and editing. So we'll be able to talk about that. But this is kind of the painting I was thinking I would do for class 4. How does that sound? Does that look exciting for you guys? Interesting? Kind of deals with a little bit of everything that we've been talking about.
And you're going to do the whole thing a la prima, or are you going to do the black and white acrylic, or what's your strategy on this going to be?
I will probably do it more a la prima,
Okay.
unless you guys vote otherwise. If you guys really would like to do the acrylic underpainting and work it up that way, I'm fine with that. I may even do some of the little sketches on the paper again, just to kind of work out the design and maybe some color choices. So a couple quick, sketches over on that, and then work it up. So maybe I'll do this whole thing like a step by step, where I even do kind of the drawing, or different edits. What would it look like if it was a horizontal versus a vertical? What would it look like as a square format? These trees are pretty centered in the composition, so that may have to get dealt with. I may have to move them one way or another, or chop down a couple trees. Like this straight left, very far left tree doesn't do much for me, so I'll probably either just get rid of that or make it more interesting and things like that. Anyways, so I wanted to see what you guys thought of that as a reference. So for those of you for week 4 who would like to do more of a paint along, you're welcome to. But for those of you who would like to pick your own subject or any other reference, that's totally great also. So anyways, just wanted to give a little preview of that for week 4. And also, again, it's just the opportunity to catch up and reflect and absorb the information that we've been going over, because it's been a lot and it's been fast. And I know we all have lives, and it's difficult to find time to paint as much as I'm asking you to each week. So, all right. And now I'm going to head over to our Facebook page so we can all admire each other's beautiful work. All right. So we've got a couple extra people who've joined our group here, so I might have to go through and find out if everybody's actually signed up for the class. My questions were a little too easy, evidently. Are you a member of the class? Yes. And then one other thing is a couple people signed up for the first couple classes only. So if you'd like to continue, just check in with OSA to make sure that you're paid through the whole course or whatever. All right, let's go to our work.
Michael, was class number 2 posted in here? Because I only found it through the email link on YouTube. I couldn't find it in here.
Great, thank you for asking that. Okay, so when we go to our page here, and then you go to featured. So right now this has about this class here for anybody that couldn't find it through my email or whatever, and it's the links to the Zoom and everything else. Also, right next to that is all class videos will be displayed here in the comments. So if you click that and it loads, this is the class 1 is the main one, and go to the comments. Class 2, class 3 will be under this, 4, 5, all of them will be in the one spot. So that should be the easiest. That keeps them right at the top of the page and everything else. So yeah, you just click that YouTube link there. And that makes sense?
Yes.
And I think beside that one, yeah, is the Zoom link. So if you're ever having a hard time or don't want to go through all your emails, you can simply click over to there, and it has the Zoom link for the meetings.
Also, if anybody only paid for the first session or whatever, OSA still has the class sign up thing online, and you just go and you buy it per session if you're going to be there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I'll go through and send out some emails hopefully this afternoon as a reminder to people that might want to do that. Yeah, and I don't know if a couple people are just signing up per class as they can show up or whatever, and that's fine as well too. A little more
I only-
expensive, but
I only signed up for the first one because I wasn't sure I was gonna like it.
I get it.
As it turns out, I love it, so.
Oh, good,
So
good.
now I'm paying the per class premium. No,
You
no
can probably
regrets.
talk to them. They may be
No,
able to give you the
I
whole
have-
deal.
I have no regrets.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so while we're here, before we go and give a quick critique, I'm going to go back over to the, so at the top of the page, you got the about, discussion, announcements, all that. If we go all the way to the right, you have the media section. I'm not sure why my computer's loading so slowly. Okay, albums. So there we have, I loaded a whole bunch of references of tonalist painters who really use fog and atmosphere very nicely. So we can go through that really quickly, or you can kind of reference those guys. And then also I went ahead and loaded just a bunch of my photos. Please, please, please feel free to add any photos that you have that you think maybe people would like and you don't mind them sharing with you. These are just kind of some more recent ones that I found. And just, yeah, a lot of them I kind of took through black and white or through my sunglasses. And there's a wide variety of things. This was another image that I was thinking might be interesting to do as next week's class. So that's something else we could kind of vote on if you're really like, man, I would love to do a vineyard versus another marshy swamp. Let me know. Or if any of these others really, really strike your fancy, let me know. I think there's some beautiful coloring in some of these that could be a lot of fun. View from our cabin again. Lots of the view from our cabin because I love waking up in the morning fog. That one is actually a really nice reference for the kind of, as things are coming closer, the tight, crisp edges versus the really soft edges. As things go further and further back, you can see the tree here. It's still got somewhat crisp edges, kind of middle. And then when you get further back or, you know, getting washed out by the clouds, they get really, really soft. There's a little grouping of trees, you know, way back here that are hardly even visible. So you can just look at them. Like this one doesn't even have fog in it, but I thought these would be some really neat foreground elements that we could, you know, push, or you can push and pretend that there's fog back there just by the things we're going to learn today. So those are references for you to look through. Some of the other older references could still totally work. This is the one I'm going to probably do today. And talk about kind of the editing in this. I know it doesn't really have trees that come forward, but it's got these nice crisp grasses and blackberry vines here that I thought were really interesting. A little splash of light kind of cutting through the middle of the image. So this is, I think, the one I'm doing today. Different lighting conditions in the same spot. You know, there's the grapevines down there that I was standing right behind. Anyways, you could definitely change any of these or, you know, use them. Yeah, here's somebody added a photo for us. I think that was a student's paint photo. Not sure about that one. It looks like fire and smoke. Anyways, feel free to use the references you want. And then, yeah, just other examples of tonalism. Let's go back to just the main media section, because that's where it posts your guys' pictures. And let's just quickly take a look at some of these. Michelle, you're here. Yep. I have Michelle. Beautifully done. This is so neat and interesting. And it really already kind of deals with some of the things we're going to be talking about in class, about as things recede into space, watching their edge quality change and their amount of detail kind of changes, goes less and less. So yeah, beautifully done. Nice colors. Almost looks like there's a sun by your glare here. Kind of nice. Tell us a little bit about
Actually,
this one.
well, that is actually where the sun is in the glare.
That's great.
So I was trying to follow along on the first class with you had the line going through with the hill, and somehow I lost the hill. And you can see I kind of feel like the path is a little too straight, but it does curve at the very back right before the fog. But yeah, it was I took another reference image just for inspiration that's next to this posting, and went kind of with that. And if anything, I have trouble with yeah, see the red or the pink mist. I thought that was interesting.
Right, yeah.
But I do realize I'm very cautious. Like I was afraid to put in bigger hills or be more, I feel like my trees look a little too uniform. And so I have trouble just being bold.
Yeah, and this, that may get worked out if you did a couple of preliminary sketches, things like that, stepping back from it in the beginning to kind of, observe and say, could things be more interesting? It's not bad. Like it's not, it's not like the full English garden where everything's the same and everything's perfectly spaced. So it, that's not a huge concern for me in this picture, but I appreciate your concern and being aware of it. You definitely have some kind of interesting, like, I call them like force fields, where like this plant leans this way and this plant leans this way, so that you have this, shape right between them. So yeah, you're definitely kind of scared to let there be much touching of plants. And
I never liked my
yeah, and then
vegetables
there
to
is
touch
definitely
either.
a patterning. Yeah, there you go. See, I can tell about what kind of a is a real missed opportunity. Like you could have so much more interesting things going on, even if it's and then there's lots of options. I don't want to critique it too much, and in fact the trail actually works for me pretty well because it leads you right into the scene quite quickly. Your fog is a little bit rough. It halfway reads as fog and halfway reads as just kind of a passage of warmer colored grasses. And so you may, if you went back into that one more time and created kind of softer edges, a little bit more of a dissipation, I think that would help there. It just kind of looks like grasses by how it's overlapping in a fairly firm way. You know what I mean? That's some very thick fog. There's areas where it's softer. So you can think about that. But I mean, your colors are gorgeous. The harmony is really nice. My main critique would be that it's a 50-50 split of land and sky. And so if you kind of put your fingers up to it, measure like pinch motion, it's pretty much exactly the same from the top of the mountains to the bottom of the scene as from the top of the mountains to the top of the sky. So that definitely makes it more stagnant feeling. That's an ugly word, but a little more still than you may intend for it. If you say, I really wanted a very quiet, contemplative scene, then you can say, yeah, then I put it in the middle on purpose, because that definitely does calm things down. But it's generally more interesting to do like a 30% sky and 70% land, or vice versa. Just kind of decide, what is this painting about? Is it about the sky or is it about the land? And that will help you to make your decision generally. Because your sky is beautiful, but not nearly as interesting as the land, I would say this painting is about the land. Let's pop over to handy dandy Photoshop. Are you guys seeing Photoshop there?
No.
No? Okay, I need to do stop share and share again. All right, Photoshop showing.
Yes, now it is.
Give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay, everybody see Michelle's painting there? So let's
Yes.
just simply do a quick edit. And this is so unscientific, what I'm about to do. I'm just going to take it and crop it. And just by taking away 1/3 of the sky, I think it becomes that much more interesting. Let's take away more sky.
Maybe I should put in some bigger mountains.
Something like that. You could bring the tree shapes up. Let's go back to the one I just had. Let's do something here, a little bigger brush. So now all your plants and stuff aren't on the same level.
That's amazing. Why do we even paint?
Oh, don't say that.
These are just tools, just like a camera. Right? Maybe changing up a couple of heights. And see how much more interesting all of a sudden that is, Michelle, by not having everything kind of on that same.
Yeah, that's totally just the magic there that you're doing. It's amazing.
Let's just.
And you know, I've been taking classes from you this year, and it's like the basic stuff. It's like, why didn't I just, well, I started out trying to follow you and then I lost it and then I just went with it. But yeah, like the design first, the halfway, all those things you know, you talk about all the time, and it's kind of embarrassing that I just did sort of the same silly mistakes.
Yeah, no, don't beat yourself up. There's so much to this. And it's almost like we need a checklist, right?
Yes.
Like, did I do this? Did I do this before I kind of move on to this? But at the same time, I get it. I get so excited that I just jump in head first all the time. And then, you know, having to fix or having to correct or just not having as successful a painting as I wanted it to be. So I get it. Don't beat yourself up. And none of these changes are that difficult. You can paint these trees right back on top of what you already have. You could, you know, make a slightly more exciting cloud or two in there. If you wanted to make it, you know, why am I showing so much sky when it's such a flat scene? Yeah. So we will keep working on that. And it is never, you're never done working on it. You're never done learning, and it's not a forward progression, unfortunately. For some of you, maybe a little more than me, but for me, it's always, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, you know, and we let our enthusiasm get ahead of us. So don't worry, keep painting, just keep attacking, keep trying things, and make good notes about what did I learn from this painting. And the next one will hopefully, it'll learn from this one. All right. Thank you for letting me do that, even though I didn't ask permission. Nope, I just went back to the same spot. All right, let's keep going. Nice job though, beautiful colors. Susan, look at this interesting design. Are you there, Susan?
Oh, hi, Michael. Yeah, it ended up rather half and half. Using that's 5x7. They're all little 5x7s, and I used that little hardware store brush, you know, the paint just kind of gets carried away, hard to stick to my plan. But had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, a little surface like that. Nice job. Yeah, I think, you know, what you can do is when you come back in and add your paint more opaquely, you can definitely come in, carve out, make some interesting shapes. I'm guessing this is kind of a bush right here.
It's
growing
a
in front of these pine trees.
it's a cliff in shadow. You know, and I tried adding some other shapes to it, but I ran out of time.
Yeah, no problem. So if
Didn't
you
get it
kind of know
look
and
right.
it's
It was
working
all-
for you.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
what?
sorry. I was gonna say, if you understand what you're looking at, because a lot of times, you know, nobody sees this stage of the painting. It's for us, it's the blueprints, you know what I mean? It's notes for us as we go forward in our painting. So if this makes sense to you and it's kind of the shapes you're looking for, then great, because I'm sure you'll come in and describe, you know, the cliff or whatever shapes more. So if it's working and you're getting the information you need from this little painting, as you move forward, that's totally fine. I don't want to judge, you know, people's sketches because again, they're very personal. You know, it's like judging somebody's little notes that they take in class for grammar. You know, all you're trying to do is catch what the teacher's saying or the information that you need for the test. So I'll be curious what you do with this. So I won't critique it too much. But I appreciate just basically it's almost just a 2-value painting. And have you worked into it at all yet with opaque paint?
No.
Okay, so I'll be curious, you know, what comes of this one. I won't go on too much. I know you've got a couple on here, such as this one. So there I can see you adding more white paint to kind of carve out your shapes a little more, nice and interesting. And I want to talk about this one really quickly about something quite interesting is look at the balance on this. So a lot of times when I look at a painting, I think of a teeter-totter, you know, on a kid's playground. And if you've ever gone on a teeter-totter with a little kid or a couple little kids, like this would be me on the right and 3 kids on the other side of the teeter-totter, and we can start to balance each other out. Especially if I scoot in a little bit on the teeter-totter and one of the kids scoots way out on the teeter-totter. So it's an interesting kind of, I don't know if that's what you guys were talking about with physics and stuff, but it's an interesting thing about balance. You can kind of almost think of it in that way sometimes is as you weight the image, because this feels good, doesn't it? Even though it's very much an L shape, a reverse L, or a steelyard, they call it. And this great big shape that goes up and out of the screen, but it actually feels good with the kind of the focal point being in here. So right in the crux of the L, and then these shapes kind of counterbalancing that. So does that make sense, you guys? As far as balance, we talk about that more in design. But kind of start watching for that and saying, you know, when you're looking at other people's work or photos and stuff, does this balance out? Is it too balanced? You know, like if Susan had, instead of these 3 trees, just put another 1 tree right here, then it's too balanced. It becomes like an H shape or a U shape. And it's, I call it the uprights, like in football. And if you look at a lot of my beginning paintings way back in the day, I did that all the time. I just really wanted super balance in my paintings, and it really just made them again kind of stagnant or flat, or they lacked motion. So anyways, I love the sense of balance and movement in this, Susan. I love the simplicity. And can you tell us just a little bit about this one?
Oh, that's a sunrise scene from a vineyard where I would walk my dog when we lived in Michigan early in the morning, the sunrise. Actually, that's the large tree on the right started out to be 2 trees that were mostly trunks with a few leaves on top of it. Man, that hardware store brush makes such interesting shapes. And at first I was real frustrated with it, like where is this going? This is getting too big. But I actually like the organic shape it created.
So Susan, what was your sequence of painting here? First, you changed the two trees while it was still in acrylic? You did,
Well,
or is
it's the black and white and gray, like
yeah,
acrylic underpainting. I was using like my little kid, my paints I had for my grandkids when they were little. So the acrylic wasn't working very good, but it was good enough. And, I just let those organic shapes kind of happen using my photo reference rather loosely, but it's basically the same composition.
and then when you went,
Everybody just squint your eyes at it. Just, don't look at it. Just squint your eyes, let the edges and things kind of soften, and it becomes so beautiful and poetic. And there's such a nice little simplistic something going on here.
yeah, it's excellent.
Susan, there's no reason you can't swap brushes too. Like if I could see a little spindly trunk going up on the left side of the thick trunk of the tree, kind of making some of those branches make sense. You could have a couple small, delicate, interesting shapes in there.
Okay.
I don't know, Michael, it's perfect as it is. It's only 5 by 7. Don't overload it.
I thought about doing that, but I was running out of time, and I thought I would just wait to see what you said. But if I make that spindly trunk, what I've learned is that I have to make it a lighter value, right? I mean, a lighter gray, or it's going to really.
Fantastic. That's so good, Susan. Thank you for saying that. Yes, that is very true, you guys. A lot of times, especially when it's kind of closer to where the sun is coming from, if you put a thinner spindly branch or some, thinner stuff or some little leaves, you probably want them at a slightly lighter value because the light is actually enveloping them a little bit. So light does travel in straight, but it also loves to give hugs. So I think of, like in a big thick trunk, it can, the edges can be a little softer, a little warmer, and the light is kind of slightly wrapping around, but on the little spindly stuff, it can absolutely wrap around it and change the edge quality. So that's something fun to observe in paintings and stuff as well, especially if you do have more atmosphere, more fog or haze or whatever else. Susan, this is wonderful. I love it. It's a perfect little poem of a piece. And I would love to see, you keep going with these, not as your finished pieces at all, but I just really think this could be something really interesting for you, and as a side project, not something I want you to start pursuing or anything, because I love how you paint and I love where you're going with it. But I think you have an innate sense for some of this stuff.
Well, thanks.
Susan, again.
I love your explanations. The thing about the balance, the steel yard, it's so much easier to understand thinking of 3 kids on one side of a teeter-totter and a big kid on the other side.
That is me, the big kid.
I've just struggled with so many of this composition concepts, so your way of talking about it really helps.
Thank you.
Susan,
And I have a question about that one. I think it's gorgeous. And I was wondering that top tree part almost to me looked like a foreground tree. If the color were a little bit different, where it's not a tall tree, but a foreground hanging into the scene, like a branch up close.
It could be, right.
Susan, how long did this take you?
Years and years of painting and classes with Michael and lots of other people, but I probably spent 10 minutes on that underpainting, and then once it dried, like 10 minutes on the glazes.
That is amazing to me.
But I've been looking at these, I have all these photos from where we used to live of these sunrises, and I'm just really excited now that I have something a way forward to work on the composition.
I just so admire your restraint and your ability to just stop after,
Well, when it's late and your husband wants dinner, it's
Yeah. When it's the rule, it takes 2 people to paint, one to make the painting and the other person to slap the brush out of their hand.
Okay.
That's what I answer sometimes when people ask me, how do you know when it's done? This looks like a coastal scene here.
Mm-hmm.
Great. This is so abstract and so interesting, and I can really see you working out some big shapes and trying to decide some things. So I think, not as successful as the one before it, just for whatever reason, in my opinion, but still beautiful. And I love these kind of little dabs of brushwork and
Yeah.
go ahead. But
Yeah,
I love it for just the fact that you're working it out. And I mean, you can still read the scene. It's just 3 values, very simplistic. Basically, if we bind these dark shapes, it's only 2 shapes, big dark, big light. You could say it's 3 or 4 shapes, but it's very simple. Again, if we look back at this one, if we squint our eyes, this is almost, again, just 2 shape, well, I guess 3 shapes. 1 shape here, big sky here, and then if you squint your eyes, the big dark, all kind of bound together. It's really nice to kind of bind our values a little bit in the beginning. Do you guys know what I mean by that, bind? So like the darkest darks, if you can get them to touch and connect, it really helps hold the painting together. It doesn't always happen, of course, but it's, especially in the early stages of the painting. I just see this as working out ideas and working out issues, and like doing the thumbnail sketch, with anything else. I mean, I see all of them like that, but very nice. Okay, good. So this one I think is very, very useful. Want to tell us really quickly about this one?
Yeah, that was, again, the 3 values and the white of the paper, and another sunrise scene. I've been wanting to paint it for a long time, but hadn't figured out the composition. So this was helpful. The grasses, or the value on those grasses, are it's a little creek running through grasses in Montana. I think that it might be better compositionally to leave that bottom part off. That might be too distracting.
All right, yes.
I love the bottom part. I love the bottom part.
I do too.
What do you think compositionally?
I agree with Susan. I like the brushwork and everything in here, but design wise, it hurts it. Let's just see what happens here. Where's my little? Oh, my brushes are so tiny.
It was blue sky at the bottom, and a darker value, but still, I think it would be distracting. Yeah.
What I thought of right when I saw it was that maybe that's hindering our way in a little bit, having that bunch right there.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And it's not right or wrong. It just means that it's more marshy than a flowing creek, how you have it, where grasses start growing right in the middle of the creek and different things like that. But that's what's so nice about these little quick sketches, right? Is you're not into it for too much. You can just analyze it, look at it. The other thing is, Susan, is you have white paint. So you can come back in and carve over the tops with your white acrylic paint and change or do whatever you wanted. That's what I'm noticing with the white of the canvas all the time. You're going to have very similar textures. So if you want in the whites of the sky or the water or wherever else, you can come back in with some white acrylic paint.
Over the oil, I used oil glazes though, so.
Oh no, before you glaze, as you're designing your shape.
Right. Okay, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and none of this is, right or wrong. It's just kind of what I'm, what I would start to think about if it were my painting is stuff like that, just like, okay, does that have slightly better movement? I don't know. Is it, but have I lost the whole sense of the scene that you were attracted to? Probably. So again, it's just me thinking with a brush or a electronic paintbrush in my hand. My only other quick observation here, Susan, is this line here of the hill, the ridge, mimics the edge of this hillside right up there. Do you see that? So they both follow exactly the same.
Oh,
shape.
yes. Thank you for pointing that out. I hadn't noticed that.
Okay, and that's about it. Yeah, and then this tree, there's a little hill hinted at back there that just again kind of mimics that shape. And that happens all the time, all the time. Let's just very quickly. Actually, I'll just use the clone tool. Oops.
So I'm not seeing your screen where
Oh,
you're
you're
doing
not
that.
seeing Photoshop? Says stop share. Are you not seeing Photoshop?
I am.
I am.
I am
You-
too.
Wonder why.
Do you have him pinned in the upper right corner of your screen?
I will find out.
All right. Well, all I did was just change the angle on your closer far back hill, so I didn't have to change the mountains and yeah. Oops, I just mimicked. See what I did? Like she's got that little shape here, and I just mimicked it there. So it's so funny. It's our brain just wants to do funny things like that. So, anyways, we're all fighting the same battles, everybody. So, Susan, are you? Do you see me?
I see you. Yeah, I'll figure this out.
All right. Well, let's just do stop share and go back to share screen and go back to Facebook. All right. Well, thank you, Susan, for sharing so many
Thank you.
interesting and cool ideas. Carrie, very awesome. Man. All right. You guys have been so working hard. I really appreciate it. Carrie, are you here?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So great job. You really heard like the 4-value landscape and pushed that, at least in these first two, and then did some experimenting. This top one, it really even speaks to what I want to talk about today with the changing of the values as we recede back into space. And isn't that just neat how literally 4 values and this picture absolutely reads. I know that if you came back across it, and painted back into it with either opaque paint or, glazing and stuff, that, the barn and the trees will become separate of each other, green and red or whatever colors and different things, but it really reads so successfully like this. There's a couple of quick tangents, like the corner of this barn and the edge of these trees lining up exactly perfect. I mean, it almost makes it look like this is something, a shape of its own. So just kind of being aware for that, I'll oftentimes kind of go do a tangent check. So if you're doing your to-do checklist, add tangent check. That could be where the trees line up exactly with the top of the hill, or the sun, looks like a star sitting right on top of, the Christmas tree or whatever, clouds bumping exactly into the sides of the trees. There's all sorts of tangents that we get in painting, and they happen in our photos, so we don't even question them when we go to paint from our references a lot of times. So a lot of times it may be useful to do a tangent check on your photo reference before you do it. But anyways, beautifully done. I think this one perfectly orchestrates or shows what last week's class was about. Same thing over here, your next horizontal here. Nice, simple, even just with only the shadow, we know that the sun's somewhere over here. Interesting, really nice. Just it reads so well. You could have, you could make these trees a little more interesting or something if you wanted to. Just a note here too, you may want to look to flattening your horizon line just a touch, or explaining it, because right now it feels like there's a bit of a rounded soft hill back here, which it could be. We could be up on a slowly sloping hill looking over kind of back down, but just kind of being aware of these kind of gradual slopes, because you've got them in 3 out of the 4 paintings. So beautifully done. Let's go and talk about this one. This one's an interesting one for me. Actually, I'll have you tell me really quickly, Carrie, what you've got going on here. The one on the left bottom.
Yeah, it's a picture of a reservoir in Jackson, Mississippi, and it's in the photo. It's really the land is really dark, and there's a lot of sunset, and the water is bouncing hot pink and dark blue, and I used the shop brush on the tree, so I was really proud of a messy tree.
Beautiful, yeah, really nice.
With some softer edges.
Looks like Japanese ink painting. It's really got some nice things going on there.
Yeah. So I try to leave the sky really white, although in the picture it's very bright and with some dark blue in it. But I was hoping if I glazed it, I would get some really interesting effects.
I'm sure you will. So tell me really quickly, is the reservoir up on a hill a little bit, or what's in the background? What would be in the background back there?
It's pretty flat.
So would there be like land back here a little bit, or some more stuff going on?
It could be, but it looked like it was just mostly sunset, and it's pretty flat. The side,
yeah, it looks like right now this is like a pool or a pond up on top of a hill, just by the fact that there's nothing kind of behind it. You know what I mean? Like if it was flat and you're standing at eye level to the horizon line, there might be something hinted. But yeah, it kind of looks like maybe that's a pond or a pool, up somewhere nice. And then, maybe there'd be a very soft horizon or something going on back there. So this one without that information, the sunset or whatever else, is a little bit hard to read, because it just kind of looks like the earth stops here. And I'm not exactly sure why. One other quick question is, why did you choose to put so much foreground in it?
Oh, it was, I think I was reading that the foreground, that was actually the horizon line instead of the dark. But it was more based on the picture, I think.
Okay. So yeah, that would be kind of something we could question if you wanted to, if there's flowers or something interesting here, but if it's just lawn or something not consequential, and this painting is about a sunset, then maybe we don't give them equal weight.
Okay.
Maybe we focus more on the sunset and the reflection and this really nice tree that you've painted here, and kind of do away with this. If you kind of put your hand up over the bottom of it and crop off most of the bottom of the painting, it does not hurt at all. It actually probably helps it. I'm not saying that, large foregrounds are, don't have their place, but it's just something you might want to question a little bit, especially if you kind of go forward and decide this might be a painting. Again, I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or anything else. It's just kind of a question that you can ask is, does this big open kind of flat area help it, hurt it? Is it indifferent? Would it be a better use to use it in a different way? But yeah, it's nice. And that tree is really, really great. I love a lot of these brush marks, and this little tiny branch off to the left is so interesting and cool. Very nice. All right, so this one off to the right, this is kind of, again, that soft waviness at the bottom of things. I would like it to be kind of explained, like, okay, this is the bottom of this tree, maybe this is the bottom of this tree. But I think this is a really interesting, nice, almost abstract painting at this point. I'll be curious kind of what you do with this. It's again, kind of, this painting is about the ground, about the foreground. So what is it in here that had you choose that?
I actually used another artist's painting as a reference. So it's Janine Bell, and her land, the field is covered with purple and yellow, and
Perfect.
the sky is a light lavender. And
Perfect.
so the focus is the field more than the trees. I think that the trees just give you a reference that it's land.
Perfect. 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 Perfect.
But
Okay.
I really like the
That was
colors.
exactly what I was hoping for.
Mhm.
Fantastic. I mean, they're really great for what I was hoping for, and what kind of the demo I gave last week. I think you really knocked it out of the park. I kind of can't wait to see a little bit of color, especially, the ones that are about color.
Mhm.
This bottom right one definitely, and both the bottom ones kind of seem like they're about color. So it's kind of funny, to show us the design and the values. And now I look forward to seeing your next steps. So really nicely done.
Thank
Did you
you.
enjoy doing that?
I did. I did.
Fantastic. Anybody else? All right. That's just another artist's work. Jean, are you here, Jean? Yep, I see you.
Yes, I am. I wrote a little blurb about these. They're all Dennis Sheehan. And can you hear me?
Yep.
And I'm using a new medium, Pastels.
Yeah, very cool.
Well,
This is
I can-
pastel?
yeah,
Wow.
I have to, I'm now we sold our house and now we're in a 2-bedroom apartment, and the smell, I just can't use oil paint. So I'm going to pastels. I'm definitely struggling with the medium, but I'm going to copy old masters. So I did 3 of Sheehan. I'm going to do 3 more of him. And I find also that when you spray the fixative, it becomes much darker. So you don't have to comment or anything. These are really just about continuing to be an artist, and I'm expanding my medium.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm proud of you for doing that. No excuses. You just found a way to just keep playing and painting and moving. And new mediums are always tricky. I know we've got a couple new to oil painting people, and it's always tricky. I don't do much at all, or maybe none, with pastels, so I can't speak too much to the medium. I do paint with pastel artists, Amanda Houston and Brenda Boylan. So I do know a little bit about their struggles and, why they prefer it versus when they don't. You don't really get to mix your own colors as much. You gotta kind of have the right stick. Are these oil or soft?
Oh, these are soft, and you're correct. You actually have to have the color. You don't mix the paint on your palette. You mix the paint with the colors of your of your hard, soft, or pencil pastels on the paper, like layers and layers of it.
Great. Beautifully done. It's a nice, I don't want to say simple, but a nice clean design. Dennis Sheehan was a big influence on me for probably one of my earlier years, kind of out of college. And he's definitely great to look at for just simplification of design. And he really just leans into the poetry, to the poetic side of things. Some of his paintings even start to defy gravity a little bit, like the creeks and things, and he just doesn't seem to care. And a lot of times when I'm kind of looking at him in the first step, I don't care either. So I give him credit. A medium you may want to contemplate is gouache.
Oh, I
I
don't
am
know.
having
Yeah.
so much fun in the evenings. I do little gouache studies when we're watching TV and stuff. I'll just, I've got a little tiny palette that I can pull out downstairs, and
You don't have gouache.
Go ahead.
You don't get gouache all over your sofa?
I don't.
Oh,
It's a
good
leather
question.
sofa, so I could wipe it back up. But I don't sit. I actually lean forward. It's over. The gouache is set up on the footrest, or actually, most of the time, I just stand at the kitchen counter so I can see from there to the TV. and still be in generally the same room as my wife and daughter. But I love doing gouache because you can treat it like watercolors, which I never painted with. So I can do these quick, thin washes. And then you can, because it's coming out of the tube and it's quite opaque when it's thick, you can treat it quite opaquely. If you would like, I could actually show you my little gouache sketch pad sometime.
I do have a question. How is it for cleanup? Because that's my big struggle too. I only have a kitchen sink and a white bathroom sink.
Yep, you're totally fine. It's like watercolor, basically.
Okay.
It's just thick watercolor. I do have a little tube of white acrylic paint because you can actually mix acrylic, watercolor, and gouache together. So some of my tubes are actually watercolor because I want them completely transparent. Some of my colors are gouache, and my white can be acrylic. Or no, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's not. No, maybe I don't have acrylic. Maybe I just have a big tube of white gouache, because I can go back in and repair shapes with the white gouache and then go in and glaze basically back over that with the transparent watercolor. So watercolors, if they ever watched me, would cry and tell me I'm breaking all the watercolor rules because I don't leave anything white paper.
Yeah.
I go
Wait,
back in with white paint.
So you say you glaze over the gouache. How does the glaze layer, which is water, not pick up the dried gouache beneath?
Just let it dry for 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Really? And it doesn't come up on your brush when you glaze over?
I don't know. If it does, I just go back over it again. I don't know. It's very sketchy for me. Yeah,
I love
remind me
gouache,
when we
but there does
stand
get
up,
to.
I'll show you. And I'm not saying they're great. They're just kind of another way to just keep working when I'm not done, but my family wants at least half of my attention. Yeah. And I also, the main reason I picked up gouache was for travel. I've always traveled with my oil paints. I traveled around the world with my oil paints, and what a pain in the butt. And my daughter started off her travels, our travel around the world, with her oils, and within about 2 or 3 countries out of 22 that we hit, she sent them back. And the big difference is to set up and tear down, even a plein air kit that's pretty quick takes time. And I was found that I was only working when my family was doing something else. Like I wouldn't set up, really quickly and just do a quick sketch. It usually want an hour at least of painting time. So I'd either wake up before them at sunrise, or, go out later, or, if my daughter was maybe doing homework and my wife was helping her, I might be able to scoot away for an hour. But then I saw my daughter, every time we stopped moving or in galleries or coffee shops, she just pulled out her little sketch pad and off she went, with either pen and ink or some pencils or with her gouache set up. And so I got quite envious, and she filled up, I think, like 10 sketch pads. And, we would just mail them back as she finished them up. And yeah, so I like that. I like, just like Jean, I don't want to have any excuses for not painting or not creating or whatever it is. So anyways, all these are great options. Let's just keep moving forward. Very nice, Jean. There's the reference, right? That's not yours, that's his. Unless you've also copied his signature very nicely. But yeah, you can see, this looks like anybody could do this, right? It's quite simple. It's quite beautiful. It's poetic. It's really fun to look at his work and just go, why is that so successful, yet so simple and, simplistic? Nicely done. You got your little preliminary sketches here, Jean. Nice job figuring stuff out.
You'll be seeing more of Dennis Sheehan. I'm going to do some more of his. And currently I'm having to work on watercolor paper for Karen Warner's that I'm copying, because they've run out of 400 grit at Blix. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. All right, so this is his reference, but in black and white.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Always a great idea to do it or get a black and white. Did I go too many? No. Another Dennis Sheehan. Yeah, and just look at the looseness in his brushwork. And I mean, it's almost kind of slapdash and fun. He's taking it serious, but not so serious. So there's a lot that I learned from kind of where does he let his edges disappear? Where does he bring in little elements of detail? You know, he's just kind of a master of leading the eye where he wants it. Anyways, there's so much to learn from his work. Nicely done.
I can't make branches. I've given up.
Given up. No giving up.
They're
You can always
blending with
cover
this mess.
You're probably going to have to really change your pressure and let your hand just barely skim across
Yeah.
the top. You know, if you're using gouache or oils, of course, we can just pick up our thinner, skinnier brush. And I don't know if like the pencils, you know, would do. I really don't know enough
Yeah,
about
they're
soft
just-
pastels to how do people get detail and little shapes.
Yeah, I got to make some look at some mark making because it's just blurring. So it's just a work in progress.
I don't mind, and especially in this stage, we're just looking for big shapes. We're looking for design. Nicely played. Oh, and have you ever done watercolor under your pastels?
No, I've never worked in watercolor at all. That would be possible, but I think I'll keep one challenge at a time.
Okay, well, I mean, for a watercolor, you can just
Okay.
simply cover the whole thing yellow
Got it.
and then work on it, or, you know, the whole thing pink and then work over it if you want. All right, another Dennis Sheehan reference in black and white. And isn't that just beautiful? Just, yeah, good job. And then another one of yours here. Quite nice. You know, it does make me want to see like where the trunks are and stuff a little more. Because I doubt that they're on the same level as these trees way back.
Yeah.
So you could probably.
I got
infiltrate some of
one
that.
baby trunk in there, but it's a
that
work
looks
in
like
progress.
it's really going to topple over. If the trunk's way over here, the trunk should probably be about here.
Yeah, I know.
And yeah, so anyways, nicely done. Nice
So
colors.
Jean, if you're using pastel there, you could just take your finger and pull that yellow off the sun to the right and left to give it a
Oh,
glaze on the
yeah.
sides.
Good idea. Yep. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, again, if anybody's used pastels or has any advice for Jean, please speak up.
I have used them, and have taken a class from Susan Kuznitsky.
Oh, she's
And
so
I
good.
admire your use, Jean, because I think they are very, very difficult.
Yeah, I actually took Susan Kuznitsky's class last winter, 2 of them.
Oh, good.
But I just picked this up again and now I've forgotten everything. So
Yeah. And now that I see your reference painting, I see what you were trying to do with the sun. So you wouldn't want to do what I just suggested.
okay.
Yep, big trunks. You know, he's grounding it more. Yours definitely looks like it belongs to this background shape
Yeah.
more. Whereas he, by simply dragging those dark shapes down in front, grounds it in front and adds a little more sense of depth. Man, look at all the work you did. I'm so proud of
My
you. That's
word.
great.
Yeah, how many-
That's a lovely little sketch there. It totally reminds me of some sketches I saw from the different impressionists and stuff when I was in France. That's lovely.
How many painting hours have we all put in the last week combined?
No kidding, you guys. All
wish
right,
I could
back
have
to
painted.
Susan. Susan, I'm not going to spend too long on this because we talked about it and hopefully you got to see it in the video from last class. If not, it's worth going back and watching just because you get a lot of praise and adoration. Very nice. We were all very envious of your ability to actually paint branches, especially when you could tell some of them were wet into wet. Not easy to do. In fact, that's one of my most frustrating things when I'm out plein air painting is trying to add little spindly branches because, you know, putting them over wet paint's very difficult. It looks like you kind of went back in and added a couple more, maybe after it dried or started to tack up. And then our only big thing that we talked about that we thought could be fixed was you had a dark red line of a horizon back here. And it looks like you went in and obliterated that or softened it and made it look more cohesive. And then I know that you were a little bit apologetic about all the color. Don't be. I don't want any of you guys, if you know, this color spirit affects you and, you know, speaks to you and tells you you need some color in your painting, go with it. Do, you know, I just want my ideas and my classes to be something to learn from and something to jump off from and, you know, something to work with. But this is lovely. I don't think that I would like to see this, you know, another way. I think your colors are, I mean, I just love this area. It's so beautiful, so soft, nice transitions. Yeah. Anybody or Susan have anything else to add? These greens are outrageous and not easy, and they are so harmonious with the rest of the painting. It's so, yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to add at all? Lovely. Okay, good. Here we have Miriam. Are you here, Miriam? Don't know if Miriam's with us.
I am here.
Oh, are you gonna have to leave? I thought you said you had to leave at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but I can wait for a
Okay,
little.
good, good. Well, I'm
Yeah,
so
'cause-
glad that you were able to post this. This is my posting of it. Maybe I should go to yours so I can read what you're saying.
Same.
I'll come back, Laura. Come back, Laura. Let's see. Thought we had yours on here. Maybe you deleted it.
No, it might be there, but
Oh,
you
there
could-
it is. No?
you could just go to yours.
Okay, great. Anyways, yeah, so thank you for all your fight for joining Facebook, for getting on here, and for learning how to post. I know it's all tricky and strange, and I almost need to have a class on that before the class actually begins. So appreciate you continuing to work with it, because it's really nice to see your work and to be able to speak about it. So tell us a little bit about this scene, Miriam.
Well, so it was from the first class and from your demo.
Mhm.
And I was trying not to do paint by number, but I was, you know, but it was new for me and I was just trying to learn how to do it. And my first effort was, I didn't have the hill in the back on the left, like I just had it around, just the round front. And then I didn't like that. So I added the hill. And then, no, I struggled to make the trees on the left more interesting than they are. But
And this is oil?
yeah, it's oil.
Great. Yeah, so you know, you're doing a whole lot of new stuff all at the same time. So I applaud you for doing it, for sharing, and you know that you're not the only one struggling with some of this stuff. Oil paints are weird, and especially if you are, you know, were a watercolorist at one point, or you know, even an acrylic painter at one point.
Yeah, I was acrylic
So
painter.
yeah, oils are a big transition. You know, and you're more than welcome to do acrylics, as you know, if you're more comfortable with them. But you know, if you want to be an oil painter, we all have to go through the learning
Yeah,
curve.
exactly. I want to be an oil painter.
Smart.
Except very messy for me.
They're messy, and they are, you know, strange, and the slow drying time and everything else. So so hopefully you can watch the video today after you leave. I will be doing kind of a more straight across the board oil painting, starting with it a little bit thinner, my sketch, and actually trying to build it up all today. Maybe not to a complete finish or anything, but I know that trying to layer oil paints when you're not used to them, they you know, they either want to pick up and not sit on the canvas on top of the wet, or they just want to smudge and blend and all these different things. So a big part of it is going to be the pressure that you touch the canvas with the bristles.
Okay.
And that just comes from trial and error and time painting. There's no real shortcut. I mean, I can talk about it, but it really comes down to a feel thing. You know, it's just like pressing keys on a piano. You can bang, bang, bang and make the same volume over and over, or you can, you know, hit it hard and make loud and then barely tickle the, you know, the ivories, sorry. And, you know, make really soft, quiet noises, even when you're playing in the heavy bass sections of the piano. So it's about learning that touch. and that finesse. Also watching how you're holding the brush. You know, if you're holding it just perpendicularly, meaning straight towards the canvas all the time, it gets very difficult to create different marks. So you want to kind of be sure that you're holding it kind of horizontally so that your hand and the brush are sideways kind of to the canvas. It's a little more of a drag or a soft scrub, or all the different motions you can make by having different pressure with the brush. I generally paint from thin to thick. So thinner paint is easier to put thicker paint over. It's almost impossible to put thin paint over thick paint unless it's totally dry. And thin paint allows you to keep applying paint for a lot longer than thick paint, you know, really, really thick paint does. Not saying it can't be done. I've got great friends who pile on paint all day long and somehow make it work. The other thing is dark to light. So if you paint from your darker paint, it's easier to put lighter paint over the dark paint. A lot of our light paints are more opaque. The white, your cadmium yellows and stuff are very opaque. They have good coverage. So if you paint from dark to light, that will also help. And then big shapes to small shapes, which it looks like is what you're kind of doing here. So a lot of times, you know, you can kind of give your trees a shape, but then I will come back in and carve out those shapes with my sky color, which means I can't probably just use it as a glaze. I have to come back in with actually thicker, opaque paint. So that can be something interesting. So hopefully some of those ideas will help you as you move forward. They all need to be experimented with and trial and error, but thin to thick, big, thin paint to thick paint, dark paint to light paint generally, and keep your darks quite thin, and big shapes to little shapes is really kind of the process with which I find painting, applying paint to be the easiest.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful.
Very nice, great. As far as critiquing the image itself, it, you know, it definitely has a different feel than the reference. I can see the reference in here, or my painting. But this feels like the trail kind of goes back and then it kind of goes down a hill on this other side, which is totally fine and totally cool. I think on my trail is kind of going up the hill more, but yours
Right.
just has this big opening,
Right.
and this kind of cutout area. So it literally feels like there's a trail going down, which is kind of cool, kind of fun. Makes you curious what's down there. You know, you could easily put like a little bit of band of surf, or, you know, the horizon of the ocean and a little bit of waves right here, kind of crashing on the beach. And all of a sudden you have a trail leading to a beach kind of a thing, or something like that. This would be kind of the same questions I was asking earlier. Is this painting about the sky, or is this painting about, you know, the ground plane? Because they're pretty much equal as far as size. So, you know, when you're designing and kind of in the beginning stages of your painting, you may want to just think about that a little bit. Yeah, and then we will work on finesse, on getting kind of some more interesting brush strokes and things like that. But I think you're off to a good start. I really do. I think, yeah. What did you, I mean, hopefully you had fun. Hopefully it wasn't too frustrating.
No, it was fun. It was interesting to try to keep playing around with the design of it, and the meadowy part. You know, I just overpainted it. But what I'm going to do moving forward is take photos of every stage, because that'll be interesting for me to see what I'm doing.
Yeah, very cool. And if you ever do want to start your painting with acrylics, like if you feel like, you know, in the design phase, that might be a little more useful to you, just even black and white paints, so you can go back and forth really quickly, really get your design sound. That's not a bad way to start, you know, especially in the beginning as we're kind of learning about how our oil paints work.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I think also starting with a value study, you know, starting in black and white and then with acrylics and then glazing.
Very cool.
is a good idea too.
Thank you again for fighting the good fight and getting onto Facebook with us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
The struggle is real. All right, Laura, you win the award for most paintings and hardest working. And I was so impressed to see you. Laura took these ideas and went out straight into the field. So she took something new and difficult and made it 3 times more difficult by doing it in plein air. Because painting in plein air is always a little more tricky.
This is not plein air.
No, this isn't, I know, but we're gonna get
Yeah.
to
Oh,
it.
okay. I just want to set expectations.
All right,
here.
yeah, this looks like the Puget Sound area or something.
This was from a photograph that's in one of the Facebook groups for landscape reference photos.
Cool.
I think it's called landscape reference. I forget what it is. On Facebook, you can search for them.
You ever
and
find that again? Maybe you could share it to our group because yeah, that might be
I
fun for
will
people
be
to
happy to
look
do
through.
so. Be happy to do so.
Great.
And it was, I tried to just bang out the black and white acrylic, and all of the ones I did, I glazed in acrylic, and then I would try to just bang out the glaze. But still, I must have spent at least an hour on each of these little 6x9s.
Yeah, I mean, it looks.
It's a cool style.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can really see the carving. So this is a good example where you kind of came back over it with the sky, and you can see the glaze, these warm colors, right? Those are your transparent colors that you put over the top, and then you came back over it with opaque paint, meaning thick, non-transparent paint, and you can see how you just carved it out and left little bits of that. Again, squint your eyes, everybody, and look at how naturalistic that begins to look.
It doesn't look that naturalistic in real life. The sky in this screen version is just so nice and subdued. I like it.
Oh, good.
And when I look at the painting, it's like this big mess overhead.
Mm. All right. Well, we're just gonna pretend this is the real version.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Very nice. Is this yours as well?
Yep. So this one I did a black and white underpainting with a sponge.
Oh,
In fact,
wow.
I think I did the whole thing with a sponge just to, check it out. And I'm not sure I'll go back to it. I don't really like that quality.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some cool ideas, and I love like the edge quality of these branches over here and stuff like that. I mean, it's different and it's fun and it's interesting, and there's definitely a beauty to it. I would have almost liked to see this hill maybe doing the opposite direction, because it's, they're all these shapes repeating, all these lines. It's one line.
Well, I have to say,
4 lines, 5 lines, all repeating.
this poor little painting actually changed the composition changed several times, and I finally had
Okay.
to stop and get to the glazing.
Cool. Very fun. I like it. Nice and warm. I mean, it's got a nice definite tonalist feel to it. I think it might be interesting to come in and make your sky a little more solid. Again, if you kind of came back with the opaque paint, just to contrast with all the texture that's in here. Because right now everything has texture.
Mhm.
It almost feels like it was painted on rough wood, something like that. So that might be an interesting thing just to see what you end up doing with that. Not that you need your, big drama clouds or anything, but I think that could be interesting. Is this plein air?
No, these 4 little studies were from reference photos. In fact, I have under the black and white, I put up the picture of the black and white 4 up on a sheet. And then in each, I think I put under the comments in that same set of photos, all the reference photos, if you're interested, which you may.
Yeah,
not
well, let's
be.
quickly skim through them. This is a really nice combination of the more opaque paint, the transparent paint. It's got a really interesting feel. I love the kind of stained glass feel up in here and in here. I would love to see you come back in with more some opaque paint and actually get into your shadows and describe that just to make this stand out even more. Yeah, this straight line here.
I don't know.
Yeah, it feels interesting. I think if you just kind of broke it up a little bit, it'd make a little more sense. I kind of can't tell where the light's coming from because I feel like this shadow is from here. And then I don't quite understand what this shadow is.
Okay, I already admit defeat on the shadow. I screwed it up. I didn't have the reference in front of me when I was painting the shadow, and I was, I don't know, listening to music or something. And by the time I finished it, I thought, this is not right.
If we just forgot about the bottom third, the top 2/3 is really, really beautiful. And this isn't bad or anything. It makes me question it. So I kind of stop enjoying it as much as I want to. I really like this. I love the ideas and effects and coloration. And I just think that's beautiful. The whole tree and archway right through here is really great.
So those trees in the background, those were originally painted in different shades of gray. And then it's basically, it's just the Indian yellow that brings out all those colors on them.
Isn't that cool?
You know, you could just take and again, I'm glazing in acrylic. So a sponge with some Indian yellow. It's amazing how the grays turn into all this whole variety of things.
Was it Payne's gray?
No, it was the black and white acrylic gray, the mix of acrylics. The gray was my underpainting. And then when I glazed over, I used mostly Indian yellow, although I have to say it, at some point my brush gets a little messy because the paints are touching each other on the palette. So there's a little bit of the red oxide, the transparent red oxide also in there. And then of course I repainted the sky holes about 100 times.
Nicely done. I really like it. I'm just going to keep moving because I know you've got quite a few here. And Laura.
And this is again from a photo.
Let's shrink it down. So that's different for you. I would not have actually guessed that was yours. That's interesting.
No, me neither.
I have to, yeah, this is an interesting one. I have to admit this water feels like it's going uphill.
Right. Right.
I don't know if that's just because the reflections at the angles and different things. I think if you just had some kind of a hint of a ground plane or something that might help it a little bit.
Remember in the first class of this series, you said, you quoted somebody saying it's a good idea to just work on one thing at a time. Was that you?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So I was mostly working on the technique here.
Great.
And I tried not to agonize over I'm trying to paint, because normally I would spend hours fixing this up, but I was trying to just move on.
Good, I'm proud of you. And thanks for reminding me of that too. No, I do, I appreciate that. And yeah, I can see like I'm hoping, or it feels like it was one of your first couple ones, and then all of a sudden you start refining it and kind of getting through it.
Michael, I don't see mine. Oh, on the media thing. That's funny. I listed them this morning.
Oh, okay. I'll go back and check, see if we can find it. Anyways, your 4 studies, and yeah, lovely.
And this, where I posted this, if you click on this, you might get to the Facebook entry where I have all the reference photos.
Okay. Gosh, yeah, just so much work. Yeah, like here's your
There's the reference. Yeah. See, that shadow is so beguiling, but I wasn't paying attention. So
yeah, and I don't understand what's going on with the shadow even looking at the photo.
I know.
Like I don't understand why it's light and then shadow here and then light here. It's almost like there's a secondary light coming across here somehow.
Well, I believe the sky is open above that end of the path. So there's ambient lighting.
Yeah, but what's casting this part? Why is it so solid?
It's the edge of the hedge on the path, but you can't see the hedge entirely because the sunbeam is occluding it somewhat.
Wild.
Okay, so it's not entirely my fail then.
No, it's one of those things. Yeah.
See, and the underpainting is a little bit better.
Oh, I like the original. I mean, yeah, somehow it does change it up, but I think that was a lovely painting. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great job. That's really nice too. This is so fun just to see all the different stages and different things. You know, I really do appreciate all that you guys are doing and all the thoughtfulness. And I mean, yeah, the fact that you went from that to that is so cool, that you edited it out, found elements, found shapes that you found really interesting, because this is beautiful but crazy. You know what I mean? And there's your eye just doesn't know where to look. It's like, that's beautiful, that's beautiful, that's beautiful. Oh, what about over here? So you know, by finding out a couple of the elements, simplifying them, and anyways, very nicely done. That is really important. There's this guy. Let's see what. Okay. Nice. It's a pretty paint or pretty photo. It's interesting with the stone right in the middle. You draw an X. It's where the X meets.
Right.
That's a funny, interesting thing. Yeah, cool. Is this it, Kathleen?
Oh, that's one of my black and whites, yeah. But I did the color ones this morning I put on.
Okay. I feel like we've used half the class. Kathleen, would I be mean if I came back at the end of class? Maybe we stayed after a little bit and talked, because I want to take a break and I'd like to get us to painting.
Okay, no problem.
So I apologize to anybody that I've met. Oh my gosh, yeah, Kathleen, you have so many beautiful ones. Yes, please let me come back to them. And you too. Gosh, you guys have so much good work. I mean, Laura did these are the plein air ones. It's just, you guys blow my mind. You really, you're blowing my mind. That's all I'm going to say. We'll come back because there's just too much good stuff to not talk about. And you guys, all your hard work deserves to be appreciated and rewarded. But yeah, I think we could just do this a whole class. So let's.
Michael,
Yes, please.
may I tell you, I have to leave at 11. I have a caregiver coming. Bob ended up having 2 surgeries last week, which is why I haven't painted at all. In any event, at 11 o'clock, I'll be gone. So
Okay,
thank
I'm
you
so
all.
sorry. Hopefully things go well for Bob.
I hope so.
That's
Yeah, I
absolutely
appreciate your being here, and you know, you don't let painting or this class add any pressure to your life.
Oh,
That
it's
goes
my
for all of you
pleasure.
guys. Use
It
as
is
an
my
escape
pleasure.
if it fits. But I don't want, the last thing I want to do is make painting any kind of a struggle. So we're here. The videos are there. When you're ready for it, we look forward to seeing what you come up with. But yeah, Bob first.
Yeah, Bob first. Okay.
Cool. All right,
Thank
guys,
you.
I'm going to take a 5-10 minute break. I've just been talking for an hour. So yeah, let's come back at 10. Let's do 35. So it's an 8-minute break. And I will do a quick little painting demo again, talking about our lessons for today with light and atmosphere.
So I have a question. What if you stopped and restarted the recording so that you got shorter videos, like you got 2 videos instead of?
Are you guys all
one.
okay to sign back in? I just don't want everybody to go through.
Oh, so you can't stop the recording while the session is on?
Oh, let's try that. Well, okay, it's a risk. I
Okay,
don't know
well
what
then
will happen.
don't do it now. Maybe better to test that offline or something.
Gail,
Michael, you won't be able to stitch the 2 pieces together. So there'll be 2 separate recordings then if you stop the
would you
recording.
guys be okay if I did that and had a part 1?
Well, I would prefer that because the 3-hour recordings are the one that's syncing my Wi-Fi.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna stop it, and then you guys need to remind me when we come back from break to start recording again.
Okay.
I only have 16 of you to remind me, so between one of us, we should remember. Between all of us, we should remember.
So then it will be part 1 and part 2.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, it'll make it easier for you to jump right back in, Kale, and everybody else.
Yes,
And
thank
for
you.
those of you who, you know, is like, I don't want to watch Mike critique for an hour and a half again. Yeah, good idea. Let's try it. And I'm just gonna pray that it works out. Stopping the recording, and we'll be back in 5 minutes, 6 minutes to start the next stage. Are you sure you want to stop recording, McLeod? Yes.